I need something written now. Who do I need? A copywriter? A blogger? A journalist? A writer? What's the difference? In this video, I'll explain the difference. So stay tuned for that. In our business, Content First Marketing, we work with some amazing writers, very skilled at what they do. But for many, there's a little confusion about what a writer's role is. Sometimes we use the word writer as a very general term, except they're very specific disciplines. And I'm going to break these down for you today in this video. The first one I'm going to go over is what we call a writer. That's a blogger or a blog writer. This person, when they write, their job is to keep eyes on what they've written as long as possible. The second role is a copywriter. A copywriter's job is to persuade somebody to take an action in as few words as possible. And there's another type of writer. We'll call them the journalist. The journalist needs to convey a story as quickly as possible in order of importance, so that no matter where somebody exits, they still get the gist of it. 3 different writing styles, all called writers, 3 very different skill sets. The writer, or blog writer, and copywriter, well, they start at the same place. They start with a brand script. And if you want to learn more about that, there's a link in the show notes to a blog post we created on the topic. But to summarize it, a brand script is simple. You have a customer. They have a problem, and for whatever reason, they can't solve the problem on their own. They need a guide. They need somebody who's been there before, somebody with the authority and experience and empathy to help them solve their problem. This guide presents them with a plan. And if this customer chooses to follow the plan, there's all these great things that could happen. If the customer chooses not to follow the plan, there are these stakes, there are these issues that could occur. That is a summary of a brand script, and I encourage you to read more on the topic. The writer and the copywriter start with the brand script. That way they know who they're writing to, and that way they know what voice to use and how to word things. But once they have that, they go down 2 very different paths. The writer's focus is to engage with authority, to capture the attention and to maintain that attention all throughout what they've written. Whether that's 500 words or 5,000 words, you want people to read all the way to the end. Well, how do they do this? It's not just the structure, it's how they choose to word things. They build in cliffhangers. They have bullet points. They use inline images to convey a thought. And they leverage the Zeigarnik effect. The Zeigarnik effect is something very simple. You put something out there that you know by human nature you want to see resolved. Set up a problem, set up some tension, but don't resolve it right away. Tease the resolution until further down the article. That's how you keep their attention with the Zeigarnik effect. 500 words, 1,500 words, 5,000 words, the process is always the same. You want the person reading to be engaged enough to read all the way through. And the typical use of this writer is writing blog posts. The copywriter, that's different. The copywriter has a very specific goal for the copy they're writing. They need the reader to take some action. That action could be as simple as click here to read more, or as robust as buy now. In any event, there is some action. And ideally, that copywriter is doing that in as few words as possible. But that's not always the case. For example, a headline on a post or a subject line in an email will be short, and it has one job. In the case of the email, it's just to get the person to open the email. And they need to write a really good subject line so that that job is fulfilled. The headline on a post is to get a person to go down a little bit further to start reading it. But when you write emails, well, those might be longer. But ultimately, when the copywriter writes an email, there is still a goal. There may be some implicit goal for that email. That might be to purchase something, schedule an appointment, make a call. Or It might be more subtle. It might be an engagement goal. We want the person to read part of the email, and if they are truly engaged, to click, to go to the website, to read the full body of it. This is where a copywriter writing the email works together with a writer or blog writer writing the full post. The copywriter's job is to get the person interested enough to go read that full post. An example of copywriting that's also long form is what we call foundation content. That is the content on the website that is intended to get the reader to take an action. When somebody arrives at the homepage on your website, what does that copy say? What do you want that person to do? What action do you want them to take? Do you want them to make an appointment? Do you want them to schedule a call? Do you want them to pick up the phone and call right now? Or do you want them to buy now? When you get into further, deeper pages on the site, and they're much more long form, is the copy written in such a way that at each important point, you're persuading that reader to take the action intended for the whole site? That is where the copywriter is continually working to persuade somebody to take an action, while at the same time educating. Very different than when the blog writer is writing, where we want that person to write to go to the very end. Copywriter wants the person to take the action as soon as possible. Now, I threw the concept of journalist in here because journalists do a very valuable service. They keep us up to date on what's going on in our country and in the world. And a journalist, to be successful, needs to convey a story as quickly as possible in order of importance. It's what's called the upside-down pyramid. That's where each sentence from top to bottom is more important than the one below it. The most important sentence is first. The second most important sentence is second. Down and down and down and down. That journalist wants to convey a story. Their job is not to keep your eyes through the entire article. It's just to make sure they've conveyed it. And they're also different from a copywriter in that they're not persuading you to do something. They are trying to get some information conveyed in a way that is palatable to you. 3 very different types of writers, 3 different types of writing styles, all very, very important in the world of digital writing. Now, there's another role in here that I didn't talk about, and that is the role of the editor. And an editor, we often think about this as somebody that's looking at punctuation and grammar and things like that, and that's true. That is a part of an editor. And to all you editors watching this video right now, you better make sure your resumes are perfect. No easier way to get filtered out for an editor role than having a typo in your resume. But that's for another video. The editor's job, more than punctuation and grammar, is to ensure that either the blog writer or the copywriter are capturing the voice of who they're writing for. They are complying with brand script. The editor's also coming up with new ideas, new ways to convey that information, helping the writer. In many cases, that editor acts as a mentor to the writer, but really they work collaboratively to get a single successful result in the outcome of what they've written. The other thing the editor does is ensures that what is written is conveyed and presented in the way it's intended. A writer might write the full post as a Word document. The editor is going to make sure that the bullets are in the right place, the right things are bolded. The editor is going to look at, if it's for online, keyword strategy. The editor is going to look for competing articles from other websites for the same topic, ensure that ours differentiates enough and is better than the competing articles. So the editor actually has a very, very important role in ensuring that what's written meets the goals of that request. So there you have it. We have different types of writers. They're all called writers. A blog writer, a copywriter, a journalist. All writers, very different styles, very different skill sets. And we have the editor that's intended to kind of tie it all together. At Content First Marketing, we have an amazing team of writers and editors. We write blog posts, we write emails, we write the content for website, we write what goes into ads. We write all these things with one thing in mind. Is what we're doing going to successfully convey the message our client wants conveyed and yield the action, in the case of copywriting, that we want done? I hope this was a helpful explanation of how we see writers. I do videos like this all the time. Sometimes they are on marketing, other times they're on business and personal development. If you liked what you see, I appreciate a thumbs up and a subscribe, and even ring the bell. And if you have some ideas or thoughts on how these things could be conveyed differently, I'd love to hear that. I always love to get a comment, so put the comment below. I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.